The future of electric vehicles is here today. Atlanta City Electric's regional president is here to discuss steps they are taking to help our communities embrace that future. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, offering primary, specialty, and urgent care, plus surgery and more. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.
Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. Electric vehicles are part of today's future, and Atlanta City Electric is a part of that mix. Joining me is Gary Stockbridge to tell me more about how the company is involved in electric vehicles. Gary, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Hey, and Gary, I know you're the regional president of Atlanta City Electric. I'm fortunate enough to be part of your team at Atlanta City Electric, and this is a big deal. Electric vehicles are really are here to stay. And we really want to talk about some of the mechanics behind what Atlanta City Electric is doing. But before we do, we want to talk about the benefits. And I think there's a lot of obvious benefits. What do you see are the major benefits for electric vehicles?
Yeah, so right off, the number one benefit I see for electric vehicles is really helping the state of New Jersey reach its environmental goals. If you look, every electric vehicle on the road that replaces a gas-powered vehicle is 75% cleaner. And so you can imagine as New Jersey seeks to reach its goals, the more vehicles we can put on the street that are powered by electricity, the better we're going to do. And over time, when you think about it, New Jersey has more and more aggressive goals to try to move towards cleaner energy sources, massive effort on wind, offshore wind. So if you can think of that, as time goes on, that 75% just gets better and better in terms of cleaning the environment because the source of electricity will become cleaner and cleaner in New Jersey. And so that right off the bat is the number one benefit of deploying electric vehicles wholesale across New Jersey.
And obviously, I think for Atlanta City Electric, it makes a lot of sense, right, that we're supporting electric vehicles. They're using energy that we're providing. But let me ask you overall in terms of climate change. This is critical for climate change, and Atlanta City Electric is doing a lot in that front as well.
Absolutely. In fact, we have an initiative that we just embarked on about a week ago with the it's our company, the Sustainable Jersey and Drumthwacket Foundation, to really educate youth across our territory in Southern Jersey around climate change, helping them to be part of the solution, really understanding it, getting together in a virtual environment and learning more about it, and even participating in competitions to exercise their knowledge of it and come up with new and innovative ideas on how to help the climate improve in the state of New Jersey. So we've been active on many fronts around climate change, and we're going to have lots of things rolling out. Hopefully we'll be back to you later in the year talking about other things that we're doing around climate change. But it's a big piece of what we do and what we're engaged in.
And that specific program is engaging with the youth as well. And I know my son was part of a little mini video to help promote that.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and I attend Savin Avenue School in Atlantic City. One question: what can students do to take action on climate change?
And what can students do?
Yeah, well, first off, try to get involved in the initiative. It's free to students and schools, but they have to enroll in the program. And so if students want to get engaged, they should talk to their teachers, get the school involved. Once the school gets involved, again, it's at no cost because we're subsidizing the cost of the program. But it's kind of a fascinating program. And from that point, they'll get the education, awareness of what's going on in the state, what climate change is all about. And what they can do is kind of get their minds churning on different ideas about the things they can do in their household, the things they can do with their parents, things they can do in the school to raise awareness, to come up with solutions, to do their part individually around climate change.
And obviously electric vehicles is a big piece of reducing our carbon print. Tell me, Gary, how big of a lift is this? Obviously, when you have a car, there's a gas station in every corner, easy to gas up and go where you want to go. And the fear with the electric vehicles, at least initially, has been you can't go very far without a refill. And then it takes forever to get a refill in terms of charging your batteries. Has that changed?
It is a big lift, but for those that follow the industry, there's a number of things changing. And part of what's happening with our company right now, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in terms of the specific things we're doing, is all part of that change. And so you're seeing things like the cost of the vehicles going down. You're seeing things like the infrastructure, that fear of being stuck somewhere and not being able to charge. Well, people are working on that infrastructure. The types of vehicles, you may recall in the very early days of this industry, that you looked at the vehicles, they were a little bit clunky. Now they're very stylish, sometimes you wouldn't know the difference between an electric vehicle when you step back and look at it from a regular gasoline powered vehicle.
Right.
And some people would say they're even cooler looking than the gas vehicles these days. So I think each of the issues are being addressed by various players in the marketplace, but there are a lot of people that have to come together to make this work. You have the manufacturers, you have the folks that install and operate the charging stations, you have like the group that regulates us, the Board of Public Utilities, you have the utilities themselves, you have the customer. So there's a lot of players in the mix, but the good news is we're all working together to try to tackle all of the hurdles that people have around moving to an electric vehicle, because it is a mindset and it is a change from what we've always done.
And obviously this won't work unless there is a mass use of electric vehicles, right, to really have that difference. And that means a lot of charging stations throughout South Jersey. How far are we off, would you say, that being able to drive from North Jersey to South Jersey is not going to be a problem using an electric vehicle? Yeah.
So I think for the early adopters, we're there already. You can go out on a number of websites and you can find charging stations. And so for the early adopters, it may be a little bit more work right now to make sure they know where the stations are, understand the vehicle, the range of the vehicle. But there's a lot of those early adopters out there. It's getting more commonplace for people to buy electric vehicles. Just the whole idea of now charging from the home versus going somewhere to fill up your gas tank. So, and we'll talk about that in terms of the role we play for the people's individual homes and what role, everybody's used to stopping somewhere to fill their gas tank. Well, if you just go home and overnight you're charging, you wake up in the morning, you got a full tank. And so, but to your point about getting all the way from North Jersey to South Jersey or New Jersey to Florida or New Jersey to California, it's there now. It's just, it takes a little bit more planning and work than eventually it will need to be.
And obviously, there's a lot of support. You mentioned all the players involved. So there's a lot of players in the mix, Atlantic City Electric being one of them. I want to talk a little bit about what Atlantic City Electric is doing to help spur this. And it starts off with a plan that you have put together to support this. We want to get a little more into the mechanics of that. We're going to take a quick break before we do so that we could really address this a little further. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Gary Stockridge, the regional president of Atlanta City Electric. And Gary, we were talking about electric vehicles, and we mentioned that the capabilities are there to go, all the way from New Jersey down to Florida if needed with an electric vehicle, as long as you, planned it out well. But the technology innovation has changed dramatically, and I know that there's some innovations in terms of how long a battery could last, and also the chargers. There are various levels of the charging as well, isn't there?
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. And you're right about the batteries too, in terms of, I mentioned the cost, but there's also the distance you can get on a battery now is comparable to normal gasoline vehicles. And so you get that extended range. But the stations, it used to be a lot more lengthy of a time period where you had to charge. And so it was a little bit inconvenient. But now you can go and have 80% of your charge in a fast charger within 30 minutes. Stop at a rest stop, get something to eat, let it charge, come out, and you're ready to go. So I think the convenience of a quick charge and not having to stay somewhere for a long period of time while your vehicle is filled back up, so to speak, we're past that, and it's just going to get better over time. So yeah, you have basically three levels. You have that fast charger, 80% within 30 minutes. Then you have a level 2 charger, which is a couple hours you're talking about. Again, might use it if you're if you're stopping to tour somewhere and you could leave it on for a couple hours. And then you also have just a standard outlet where you can charge overnight. And usually what you would use, when you go home at night and you're done for the day and you wake up the next morning and head out, you can put it on a kind of a standard outlet. So multiple options have developed, and the technologies are really advancing quite quickly.
And obviously, this innovation is important to have players like Atlanta City Electric involved. Let's talk about your efforts to help improve both the accessibility and ability of electric vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's kind of triggered the activity with us is we had a package that we proposed to the Board of Public Utilities. We actually had put it in all the way back in 2019, but just this past January, we worked through an approval, and the board has now allowed us to move forward with certain offerings. And a little bit of what had to be done to get us to this point, we mentioned it, we touched on it a little bit earlier in the first section, is what is the role of the utility versus all the other players in the marketplace? Right. And fundamentally, our role, we can think of it in a couple areas. One, we're going to be able to give rebates and reductions in cost to put the infrastructure in. So we're going to work with individual customers and commercial establishments that run the charging stations to help reduce the cost for them to put those stations in. And so that's one major area, and there's many different categories of that. And then the other major area is really how we create rate structures that make it cheaper to fill your tank, and also benefit all of our customers by helping move people to charging it what we call off-peak times of the day. And so let me talk about each of those, Bert, and kind of what we're doing. So the first thing is, where are we helping to build infrastructure? Because that's that range anxiety. Where are we helping people build out the infrastructure so that reduces the range anxiety, gives you lots of options to charge? So the first thing is public charging. So we're going to be helping facilitate chargers that are there for the public. So that means they have to be available 24/7. They have to be maintained, and anybody can go into those stations and fill up their vehicle. So public stations is one major area, and we're going to be helping to subsidize about 1,000 of those mid-range chargers and about 100 of those fast chargers in southern Jersey. And so we'll work with the people that do that We'll be providing incentives. These incentives will help spur the market on and help fill out the infrastructure in the public charging arena. The second area is in the residential arena. And so we're going to be offering basically 50% rebates for customers to install those mid-range chargers in their home. And so this will encourage more and more customers to build the capacity within their own home to relatively quickly, again, a couple hours, recharge their vehicle. And at the same time, in the residential arena, we're going to be offering rate structures that offer reduced rates for basically nighttime charging, because that's when we already don't have a peak. We have a peak during the day we define a peak as where most of the people are turning on their appliances and using the most energy. And what we don't want to do is exacerbate that peak, because then you have to put more generation in to provide that peak. So what we want to do is move people into the, so to speak, valleys of usage during the day, which tend to be overnight. So it works out perfectly for EVs. Come home, plug it in, go to sleep, wake up in the morning to a full charge.
So it's important. It's important to understand that it's not just plugging a cord, normal cord, to your vehicle to charge it, right? That needs to be some infrastructure at your home to be able to charge those vehicles. And certainly paying 50% of that cost is significant assistance.
That's correct. Yeah. So a level 2 charger is not your typical charger that it's just a regular outlet. So there needs to be work done in the home by a licensed electrician to put that in and make sure that the home is capable of handling that. And again, that is where the incentive goes to help customers defray that cost. And it's kind of on a first come, first served basis. So we're excited about that. The other area, when you think about it, is kind of multi-family buildings, condos, apartments. And this is where we're going to be working, again, to offer rebates to put in available charging stations for all the residents that are in those multifamily dwellings. And so we're going to have 200 of those mid-range, what we call L2 EV charging stations that we're going to help subsidize the cost for in multifamily dwellings. I'd also say that we're looking to, from an equity standpoint, we're really looking to get chargers into communities that are already struggling, and you know what I think in New Jersey, you know where there's a heavy concentration of either low income or
some of the underserved communities, obviously, could use city assistance.
So we're really trying to get some of those multifamily dwelling areas covered in that way to make sure that these electric vehicles can be for everybody and these charging stations are available to everybody. And then I think the final area that we talk about is the workplace. And so a lot of workplaces have contacted us and say, hey, I'd love to create an infrastructure not only for my fleet of vehicles that we work with, but have access by our employees for their vehicles. And so we're going to be hopefully in the workplace covering about 450 of these mid-range charging stations for workplace environments, and trying to get the biggest bang for the buck around converting over work areas and individuals that are really trying to get ahead of the curve, and hopefully not only with their own fleet but with their employees and the vehicles that their employees drive. So we're looking forward to getting that in place. And then so those are the major areas for the charging stations. But
Gary, you mentioned quite a lot here that we want to focus on just one statement you made about equity. We want to really touch a little deeper into that. We're just running out of time of this segment, so we want to take a quick break, and we'll continue this discussion. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Gary Stockbridge, Regional President of Atlantic City Electric. And Gary, we're talking about the great things that Atlantic City Electric is doing to help spur on electric vehicles and opportunities for charging stations throughout South Jersey, help to lower the carbon footprint. One of the things that you started to mention was on the fast chargers. I understand this also included in the package that you previously talked about was a rate for fast chargers. You want to cover that a little bit, please?
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the residential arena, we're offering homeowners a rate that encourages them to use off-peak. Now, recognizing that fast chargers, like your average public charging station where you have a fast charger, we're also going to be offering a reduced rate to those providers for them to pass on to their customers. It probably won't be a rate that's around forever, but kind of an introductory rate to get people comfortable and helping them save money up front and really getting over that hurdle of being an early adopter into the electric vehicle market. And so embedded in all of our offerings will also be a reduced rate to our fast chargers providers that'll be around for several years to help encourage the market as well.
Hey, Gary, you mentioned equity, and even in this filing, in this set of programs, you have an eye towards making sure that this is available for everyone. And you mentioned the need for equity and inclusion. Tell me a little bit more about what Atlanta City Electric is doing in that front.
Yeah, it's a great question, Bert. Thank you for asking that. It's, like everybody else over the past year, 2 years, our company has embarked on a journey and it touches a number of different areas. So as I mentioned, even in our offerings, in the services that we provide our customers, we're really trying to understand, is there equity of access to all of our customers for the programs that we offer? So that's a given. We're really trying to understand customers' needs, making sure we're getting to all customers and that there's real equity across all of our customer base in terms of access to the offerings that we provide in the marketplace. But beyond that, we also do things like, for instance, supplier diversity. It's real important for us that the individual companies that work for us represent the communities that we serve. And so we have a very large focus on supplier diversity. We spend a lot of time not only building relationships with diverse suppliers, but helping them be successful in the marketplace. So it's not only important for us that they do well with us, but we want to, as a large business, we almost want to provide a mentor aspect to our relationship where we're helping them run a successful business if they need that help. And that helps us build the network of diverse suppliers. And I'm happy to say that year over year, every year we're bumping up the percentage of diverse suppliers on our system dramatically and with aggressive goals. And we're real proud of the work we've done in Jersey in trying to build local diverse suppliers into our mix. And so that's another area. And then finally, in our employee base, more than ever, we're finding our employees really want to understand from a hiring perspective, from as you said, inclusivity, trying to create a work environment where everybody that works for us feels welcome, appreciated, and that this is their home and this is their company they want to work for. And so, for instance, putting in things like what we call employee resource groups to make sure employees have a group where they can feel comfortable expressing concerns and just talking about programs and how they can work together. And so we have a number of Olay. You and I were just talking about creation of a Latino group within Atlantic City Electric as an employee resource group. We have a military group. We have a women's group. So we have these groups that are open to everybody, but they have a focus on really trying to make sure that our employees in those groups feel understood, can address any issues, feel appreciated, and really feel that they're in a company that everybody's welcome and everybody's input is appreciated. So in whether it's the services we offer, the suppliers that we use, or the employees that we bring to work every day to do our work in the community, we want to make sure we're thinking about diversity and inclusion in everything that we do. And it's been an exciting couple of years to really grow that aspect of our business. And it's a win-win all around. We've always said for years now that a diverse employee group really provides better output into the community, better business success, But you got to retain that diverse group, and to retain it, you have to create an atmosphere of inclusion and welcomeness to all employees that work for you. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, Gary, you know that diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm glad to be able to work for a company that is focused on just that. You mentioned the employees, very important, and even your boss, Dave Velasquez, happens to be Latino, and we see some of our young engineers that are part of that. Starting that OLE resource group, have also been engaged with some of the contractors, and actually Atlanta City Electric has also been engaged with Jingoli Energy in terms of mentoring some underserved members of the community here, both Latino and African American, to take an opportunity to get trained in some of those very high-paying crafts that could really be a very meaningful future for some of those youth.
Absolutely. And I think the whole topic of workforce development is an area that we've embarked on quite aggressively, understanding that we are a big part of the workforce and we can contribute quite a bit to the community. So whether it's working with our workforce development boards and helping them to provide training for our industry and related industries, or as you mentioned, Jingoli, we have a relationship on a major project that we're doing. And in that relationship, we brought in 18 young individuals that will provide mentorship to the guidance. And then, whereas in the past, they might work on a project like that, go on to something else after that, we're hopeful that through this type of a process, they can, at the completion of that project, come to work for our company or some of our feeder suppliers and build a career that started with a major project, a major infrastructure project that we embarked on. So yeah, we're very excited about the workforce development arena. We really do think there's an area for us to especially incorporate underserved communities and individuals who may not have had an opportunity to come work for us in the past.
We're running out of time, just got about 30 seconds left. And I know that you are a motorcycle guy. Are you ever thinking you're going to give up your motorcycle to drive one of those electric vehicles?
I have to say, so I'm a Harley Davidson guy, and I love my Harley Davidsons, and I'll ride them all the time.
I'm not asking you to give that up.
I never will. But Harley Davidson has their Hot Wire program, which is an electric vehicle. So they realize that Harley Davidson needs to appeal to another generation, another group of customers, and they see a real opportunity there. So there will be electric motorcycles. I'm too old to switch. I think I'm going to stick with. I think I'm going to stick with the gas-fired motorcycles. The good news is motorcycles are pretty darn efficient to begin with. The miles per gallon I get in my Harley Davidson,
that's right,
will beat any other vehicle. But I just like the sound, and but I think you have a new generation coming up that will start to gravitate towards electric motorcycles. And I'll tell you what, they're pretty stylish and pretty cool looking. It's just an old guy like me. I think I'm stuck in my ways.
Well, Gary, I thank you so much. This is very valuable information for our audience. And again, thank you for joining us here on Latino Motion. And folks at home, thanks again. Look for you next week here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment. Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, offering primary, specialty, and urgent care, plus surgery and more. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world, and South Jersey Gas.